Thank God he won. And here I am today. God has a destiny for each of you. And that's really what brought me into the faith. They told me that God loved me and had a destiny for me. They talked about hell and sin, and I was a nice hippie, and I was 19, I was Superman. I was nice, I wasn't worried about hell, I wasn't worried about eternal life. But I was bored to death playing rock and roll music. And if God had a destiny for me and could make some things in my life work I was interested in. November 10th, 1973. Wow, I'm old. I prayed in a hotel room in Ashland, Oregon, opened up a Gideon's Bible and started reading that Bible, and it started reading me. And here I am today. God has a destiny for each of you. That's what I was told. And oh, is it ever true? So walk with God. Find yourself a church in each age of your life. Get into a small group and stay there, because that's where the good stuff happens. When you fall down, because you're gonna fall down, get up again. Get up again and get up again. God's always ready for you. And you will walk right into your destiny. Day upon a week, upon a month, upon a year. I've danced in the mountains of Morocco with 25,000 Sufi Muslim and the head Sufi Imam who became a friend. And I've sat in the office of Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. And I've been a pastor in the inner city in the hood for 30 years. How's this stuff happen? Destiny. So walk with God. I have so much admiration for each of you. It's an honor to be here today with you. You're going to be hearing lies about many things as you continue in life. One of them, and specifically you'll hear on many, many college campuses, have to do with the Jewish people and the so-called Arab-Israeli conflict in the Middle East. You'll be told, you'll find over and over and over again, it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews' fault. And you'll be told it's their fault because they've stolen all the land that didn't belong to them. This is a map of the Middle East. The Jews stole all the land that didn't belong to them. They stole it from the Palestinians. Can you see Israel on the map? Not really. It's a scale map. Well, the devil's a liar. 99.4% of the land surrounding Israel is already controlled by Muslim majority neighbors. The Jews stole all the land. That's why there's not peace in the Middle East. How absurd is that? It's what you're going to be told over and over and over again. I want to prepare you for college, and some of these lies that have come your way. This is barely a preparation. It's almost more of a, I want to say, a warning. These are some of the things you'll be facing in different levels on different campuses. Let me tell you quickly what the Word of God teaches us, because it's a lamp to our feet, it's a light to our path, and it will never steer us wrong. Everybody needs Jesus, Jews and Gentiles. I'm not touching that today. This is something else, of a mystery, of a God who owns the entire world. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And he gave a little piece of land to a man named Abram. Long, long time ago. North, south, east, west, all the land you see, I'll give to you and your offspring forever. It was a perpetual promise for how long? How long did he say give it to him? Forever. Or I should say, forever. Correct? And it was perpetual, descendant, generation to generation to generation. He gave them the land of Israel. God did. Forever. So let's make that clear, first of all. Who belongs to the land? And who does the land belong to? To God? He gave it to Abram and his descendants. Well, Abram believed the Lord. He credited it to him as righteousness. This truth of faith alone in God alone brings righteousness alone. This started in the Old Testament. And here's where it started. Abraham's faith in God brought him righteousness. It's our faith in Jesus that has brought us righteousness, yeah? They've been walking together for 15 years. Of course Abram believed the Lord. Can you even imagine? You knew God. You've seen his Shekinah glory. You heard his voice every day. Anybody here like Israel Houghton? I am a friend of God. He calls me friend. Yeah, and he, like Israel Houghton, thank you, two of us. Great songwriter. This is where he gets that from. Abram was a friend of God. But look at his funky faith. Abram believed the Lord. No, he didn't. Look at the next word out of his mouth. How do I know for sure? He didn't believe him. God says, I'll swear to God. I swear to God I'll do it. I swear to God, God says, I will keep this promise. You see that? He had no greater name to swear by. So this promise to Abram and his descendants, a little strip of land forever. God, as we say back home, he put his street cred on that promise, and he swore to God that he would do this for the Jewish people. He gives them a little more information that his wife Sarah, and is going to give him a little baby boy named Isaac. And now this would be passed on to Isaac and his descendants forever. Do you know every single prophet speaks about these things? And I mean every single prophet except Malachi. And as you read the scriptures, you'll find this to be true. Amos writes that God at someday will bring the children of Israel into their own land, never to be uprooted again. You see, he says it will be a ruined land. Well, let's take a look at the land of Israel before the Jews came back. This is an area known as the Hula Valley. That's what it looked like for centuries. The Jews came back, began working it. That's what it looks like now, the same exact place. Let's get some more of the prophets. Every single prophet except Malachi talks about it. God says it's going to be a desolate land you go to. It's going to be a wasteland, destroyed. I'll make it like the Garden of Eden. First time they went in, it was the land of milk and honey. Not this time, God says. Not this time. When you come to the land for this last time, it's going to be wasted, desolate. Why? The land would not respond even to nature because the rightful owners were gone. The Jews were gone. That's who owned the land. Almost like a woman waiting, faithful wife waiting for her husband to return from war. She's not going to put her face on. She's not going to get dressed up. The land of Israel would not respond until the Jews come back. And they come back in 1948 after being gone for almost 2,000 years. Same piece of land right there. That's what the Hula Valley looks like now. 66 Jews bought this piece of land. They scratched their names on seashells, dropped them in a bucket. They paid way too much land. It's sand dunes. They bought it from absentee landowners. Most of the land of Israel has been bought by Jews. They scratch their name in buckets. They pull out the name. The Samuel's family over there, Abram family, you get those. Shmuley, you guys get those sand dunes. Does it even matter? Just get to work. They did get to work. Same piece of land. I take people there every year. Looks like this. That's the same land, same exact spot. Tel Aviv on the Joppa Court. All those sand dunes. Why? Because God said the desolate land, I would turn like the Garden of Eden when I bring you home. There's the proof of it. Anti-Semitism is the oldest hate in the world. If you Google the oldest hate in the world, you'll find out it's Jew hatred. When people ask, well, when did that hatred for the Jews begin? Began while they were being formed in Egypt. We talked about that at the assembly a little bit. The Pharaoh said, kill every baby Jewish boy that's born. Throw them in the Nile River. Thank God that didn't happen. They continued to grow and they grew strong. They finally escaped from Egypt. They got into the promised land eventually. Solomon built a beautiful temple for the Lord. They were there 400 plus years. They had good years, they had bad years. It got so bad though, they quit following God. And God said, I'm going to take you out of the land. And he did. It's known as the Babylonian exile. Don't know if you've studied it yet, but you will. It's in the Bible. For 70 years they were gone. The temple was destroyed. 70 years later, they come back to Israel. They rebuild the temple. A lot of the Jews did not come back. They stayed in Persia, which is today's Iran. And they were all, almost 9 million of them were going to be killed in one day. But once again, God intervened through Esther. You know the story of Esther, and the Jewish people were saved again, and we thank God they were, because if they hadn't been saved, there'd be no Jesus. And if there's no Jesus, I won't be here standing, talking to you right now. So we thank God for the Jewish people, and God's hand on them through the ages. Well, Jesus took his disciples in the New Testament. They walked by the temple. He prophesied. He said, not one stone will be remaining upon the other. You remember that moment in 70 AD, his prophecy came true, and Rome came in, horrific time, destroyed the temple, 1 million Jews dead in the streets. And the Jews were cast out of Jerusalem for almost 2,000 years until your generation, until just now. 2,000 years. As they were cast out, they went all throughout Europe. You've heard the Crusades, I'm sure. You know, the Crusades were about 200 years long. It wasn't one crusade. And the Christian crusaders were going to Jerusalem to save it because the Muslims had taken it over. As they marched through Europe heading towards Jerusalem, they'd come upon the Jewish villages and they would absolutely decimate the Jews along the way. Christ killers, they call them. And if they didn't convert, they would kill them. And that's what they did. It's horrific. You can read book upon these days and just buckles your knees, the wickedness of it. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, is the only thing I remember. It's also the end of the 200-year Spanish Inquisition, where if you were a Jew in Spain and you didn't convert for 200 years, you were burnt at the stake. Tens of thousands of Jews were killed. And on this date, right when Columbus was actually writing his journal, we find King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella had ordered that any Jews left in Spain should be killed on sight. And there were about 200,000 Jews still left in Spain. And many of them did die. Many of them did escape the surrounding areas. We're almost done with the history part. But you see this ongoing hatred for the Jew every generation, over and over and over again. Sadly, often from those carrying the cross of Christ. A word you may not know, pogrom. A pogrom is a state-sponsored slaughter of a people. You ever watch the musical Fiddler on the Roof? Anybody? Fiddler on the Roof? Yeah, of course, you and I did. It's a soft view of the pogroms of Russia, and many of them were led by the Russian Orthodox Church, many of them by the state. They'd just come into village Jewish ghettos and they'd kill the men and women in the areas. This went on for many, many years. Hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children were killed during the pogroms. See the date on this, 1906. We're getting ever closer to 1938. Anyone remember 1938, 1939? Anything happened in Poland, in Europe? The Holocaust? Closer and closer. The hate building and building and building and building. Do you know the Holocaust did not start with ovens or gas chambers or bullets? The Holocaust began with words. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Words have power. There were signposts on the way to Auschwitz, that horrible death camp. Watch.
It all began with words. 1.1 million Jews, 10% of the Jewish population of all of Europe was brought here in that period of time and murdered. Based on propaganda and lies, things which have absolutely nothing to do with reality. In Germany, it began with words at the bottom of a newspaper. The Jews are our misfortune. It began in the 1920s, the first anti-Jewish law. That law says that do not buy anything from a Jew. Do not use any Jewish products. The first step is boycott. I call those signposts along the road to Auschwitz. The signs were there, big and bold. Nobody bothered to look at them. That is why, when 10 years ago the concept of a boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel came along, I screamed and yelled at the top of my voice. If there's one thing we need to learn from the Holocaust, we must recognize those signposts along the road to Auschwitz.
Irving Roth, Holocaust survivor of blessed memory, he passed away recently. He used to speak a couple hundred times a year for us. Words led to the Holocaust. I'm going to put two sentences on the screen, do a little pop quiz here, no cheating. These are the words from a self-proclaimed Christian, and his words changed the history of the world, certainly changed the history of the Jewish people. Watch, and I'll give you four choices who this is. See how much you may know or not know. We don't know what we don't know. Okay, I'm going to give you 4 choices. Don't shout out your answer. We'll let everybody discover it on their own. I'm going to put them up, then I'll take them down one at a time. And these words change the history, certainly of the Jewish people, the history of the world as well. (1500s). Martin Luther, our Protestant reformer, in the 1500s, wrote on the Jews and their lies. 65,000 word treatise. Goes on and on and on like that. If we had 1,000 Jews in the room, every Jew would say, yeah, of course. Of course we know about that. Changed history. The Lutheran Church brought an apology for it in 1994. It took them 450 years. They apologized for it. There's violent recommendations, violent when you call for the killing of Jews. Martin Luther, a reformer. And the Lutheran Church expressed their deep abiding sorrow over the tragic effects on subsequent generations. What they don't recognize is that many, many, many of the churches that are from the Reformation movement to this very day are anti-Israel. Anti-Israel. They claim the Jews have no right to live in the land of Israel, and they've stolen the land from the Arabs or the Palestinians, and that it's all the fault of the Jews. Many still, because of the hatred of him. But here's what they're talking about. Its effect on subsequent generations. Mein Kampf, if you were to get it, you're familiar with Adolf Hitler, My Struggle, what he wrote. He praises Luther in it. Why would Hitler praise Luther? Are you kidding? Same exact ideology on the Jews. And all throughout the Holocaust, thank God he didn't have social media, but he sure had a propaganda machine. And all throughout, he used his propaganda machine, and he would use Luther's image and his words over and over and over again to Nazify the church in Europe and poison the world against the German people. Hitler's Mein Kampf, Mein Struggle. Hitler's struggle and Luther's teaching in German are the best defense for the German people. And he'd use that over and over and over again. And of course, it led to the most horrendous time in the Jewish history, perhaps history of the world, where 6 million Jews were killed, 1.5 million babies and children, because they were Jewish. Every generation has hated the Jews. But the Jews believed the prophets. The Jews believed the Torah, where God said, Abram, I promise you forever, you will get this land, you and your descendants. And every year they'd cry out, oh Lord, don't, next year in Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. And then, after almost 1,900 years, a miracle happened. Because God is a promise-making God and a promise-keeping God.
After nearly 2,000 years of exile and foreign domination, the Jewish people once again were free in their own land. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed Israel's official independence and modern rebirth. Celebration was short-lived. The next day, 5 Arab armies attacked Israel. Short on manpower, resources, and with almost no international assistance, Israel miraculously survived and even gained ground. But independence came at a great cost. Israel lost 6,373 people in the war, nearly 1% of its entire population. After more than a year of fighting, the Arab nations made armistice agreements with Israel and withdrew. For the first time in 2 millennia, the Jewish people had a national home and a strong defense force.
Because God said. Because God said. It's happening in our time. And the Jews have been at war, defending themselves against many of the surrounding Arab nations to this very day. Do you know that anti-Semitism right now is at the same level as it was right before the Holocaust all around the world? We're not Jews, most of us in this room. If you were, you would know it. Our Jewish friends are scared to death. Right now, let's take a quick trip around the world. Anti-Semitism. Right now. Europe. Christian Europe. Germany. Frightening. Again. France. Jews leaving France by the thousands. It's not safe to live there anymore as a Jew. Australia. This is probably news to many of you. We're not Jewish. It just doesn't come across our radar. But our Jewish friends, it sure has for many years now. Great Britain, horrific. Canada, it's everywhere. In Germany, it's not safe for Jewish men to go outside wearing a kippah. You know what that kippah is? That little prayer hat. Do you know why they wear that? I love it. Because it's to be always reminded that there's someone above watching God. God the Father's always watching. And wearing that, it reminds them of that. I love that. We need to get that to more of our Christian pastors. We won't see them being embarrassed in the newspapers. God's always watching. But watch, it's worse than that.
That rally is actually a group on our campus.
So are you nervous on campus now?
Yeah, I'm walking around campus actually. I'm not gonna lie, I do fear for my life. Like, I'm constantly in paranoid, watching behind me and stuff. I'm actually afraid to walk by myself sometimes.
But this year I've come back. Some of my Orthodox friends, he won't wear a kippah anymore. He always wore a kippah. And the first thing he says is, why do you not have your kippah on? He's like, I'm afraid to walk around with that on. I do not feel comfortable at our school walking with that on.
On many college campuses, there's groups known as Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP. They don't care about the Palestinians. They don't care about justice. They hate Jews. And they have recognized chapters on college campuses. I'm going to take you into the classroom. This campus was 20 minutes from my house where I lived in Sacramento, UC Davis. And some Christians and Jews brought in some Israelis to speak, answer questions, talk about Israel. SJP stepped in, ended the whole time. They do it over and over again. Watch and listen to what they're saying. 18 seconds, I'll take you out of the room. Students for Justice in Palestine.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada! Intifada, Intifada! Intifada, Intifada! Israel is an apartheid state! 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 Free, free Palestine!
Okay, free Palestine. Free Palestine from what? There's about 4 million Palestinians live in the Middle East, Israel. 2 million in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria is what it's called, but they renamed it the West Bank. Judea and Samaria is what Jesus is going to call it when he comes back. And 2 million or so in Gaza. They're ruled by Palestinians. They have Palestinian presidents, schools, administrations, police force, everything. So what do they mean free Palestine? Here's what they mean. Palestine to them means, this is the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat, he started the PLO. You see that strange looking logo? Let me put a map on top of it. There you go. That's what they call Palestine. That's Israel. And when they say free Palestine, they don't want a two-state solution. They want a one-state solution from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, and not one Jew will be in it. That's what they mean by free Palestine. Free it from Jews. This is their textbooks. Middle school. The United Nations pays for them, our tax dollars. They teach their students that all of Palestine is theirs, all of Israel is theirs, because the Ottoman Empire ruled there for 400 plus years. So that means it's always Muslim controlled. That's what they teach them. They also start with little tiny children, kind of a Sesame Street. They teach them that all of that land is theirs, giving them false expectations and lies.
ثاني شغلة أصدقائي الأطفال أنا مبسوطة من اللي مدار إنها ثقافة فلسطين أصدقائي الأطفال اللي بتشمل كل فلسطين أو فلسطين المحتلة اللي رح ترجعنا بيومي ده شكرا حبيبتي أنا كثير بحبك. You'll hear the news always saying Israel occupied West Bank, occupied Jerusalem. It's not occupied. They're the inheritors of it. We're Christians. We believe the Bible.
That's not what the world's going to tell you. It's not what you're going to hear on college campuses. And this goes on from the time they're little tiny children, from the river to the sea. They're going to take it all back. That's not all. These Sesame Street type programs. Love has to be taught. Hate has to be taught. It's taught.
ليش حابة تصيري شرطية؟
I have hundreds of hours of this.
زي مين؟ زي عمو. مين عمو؟ أحمد. هو شرطي؟ شو بيسوي طب الشرطي؟
بس الحرامي والبيعمل مشاكل.
وبطخ اليهود صح؟ انت بدك تصيري زيه؟ ان شاء الله لما تكبري. انا بطخ اليهود. كلهم؟ كلهم؟ طيب.
Good. The time they can crawl. Hundreds of hours of this. Free Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Spread all throughout the Middle East. These are all white guys. Outside Boston University. Free Palestine was one of them. Intifada, long live Intifada, right? What was the other one? Intifada means shaking off or breaking free. This is what Intifada is in the Middle East, and they know it. 2 minutes.
On October 9, 2015, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh declared a day of rage, a day that will represent that start of a new intifada in all the land of Palestine. The stabbing intifada began as an increase in terror attacks against Israelis. It lasted largely until 2018, but sadly, Palestinian terror, including stabbing attacks, continues. PLO Chairman Mahmoud Abbas incited Palestinians against Israelis by declaring that Israelis were desecrating the Temple Mount, the location of 2 Muslim holy sites, with their filthy feet. He falsely announced that Israel would soon restrict Muslim access to the Temple Mount, inflaming Palestinians to commit violence against Jewish Israelis. Although the Israeli government issued statements assuring that they were not going to withhold access to the Temple Mount from Muslims, Palestinian leadership continued to encourage violence in speeches and on social media. This launched a stabbing intifada, marking an increase in terror attacks against Israelis that continued for several years and is still a problem today. As a result, Israelis saw more terrorism in 2015 than they'd seen in close to a decade. 28 people were killed, including 22 civilians, 2 foreigners, 3 members of Israeli security services, and 1 Palestinian. As of February 2018, 192 stabbings and 139 attempted stabbings had taken place in Israel, as well as other attacks by shooting, vehicle ramming, and bus bombings. 62 people have been killed by these acts of terror.
Intifada, long live Intifada, being shouted on a campus by a recognized campus chapter, Students for Justice in Palestine. Anyone remember the last thing they were shouting? Free Palestine, long live Intifada. Israel is an apartheid state. You'll hear that. You'll read it. It's a lie. The devil's a lie. They need a dictionary. First of all, apartheid, the definition is this: any system or practice that separates people according to race, caste, etc. This is the word that was used for South Africa in its horrific history. The United States had the same during our days of slavery, where blacks were second-hand citizens, apartheid. That's where this word is used. And the definition was the following, and worse. That's apartheid. Israel is a pluralistic democracy. 2 million of its citizens are Palestinian Arabs. Some of them are doctors, nurses, professors. Some of them are dirt poor. Some of them own businesses. Just like the Jews there. They're equal citizens. It's the most absurd lie. I'll take you to Israel right now. Walking down one of my favorite places. I got my camera on top of my head. This is called the Shuk. It's where you go shopping. Best food in the world. Right before Shabbat on Friday. You've got Palestinians walking together right next to Israelis. Not only that, you've got Palestinians on the right Jews on the right owning their own businesses. It's a democracy. Apartheid is such nonsense. In America, we have best food anywhere. In America, we have two political parties, and they both drive me a little crazy. I vote. Everybody should. I vote on a platform, not on personality. Read the platform of each party. Make your choice. Israel has 10 parties in the Knesset, but the third largest party is the Arab Israeli Palestinian Party. And they're now in leadership with Prime Minister Bennett. They help run the country of Israel. So apartheid? Just a lie. Just keep saying it, keep saying it, keep saying it. People believe it. But it's not just Students for Justice in Palestine. It's the United Nations Human Rights Council. It's Amnesty International calling Israel an apartheid state. It's former presidents calling Israel an apartheid state. Why? Because what God loves, the devil hates. You're going to be running into this head on in college. Where did it come from? The big lie. Hitler's right-hand man, Joseph Goebbels, instead of, he was in charge of the Nazi social media propaganda machine. Remember this? How they used Luther, his image, his words, over and over and over again. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. It's the Jews. These are just a few of them. It's the Jews. Oh, we could stay here 10 minutes, but we gotta go home. If somebody, it's the Jews. That's where you're gonna be running into. As Christians, we're called to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and God promises to prosper those who love the Jews. Make some Jewish friends. Give them part of your life. If you want the prospering of God, it's one of the ways to get it. Those that bless them will be blessed. Because our Jewish friends are scared to death right now. They can't even go out and eat without being afraid in some areas of being attacked. Watch this. It's short, but watch this, please. Our Jewish friends. It's not Tel Aviv. It's last year, December, Manhattan, New York. I can do an hour of these. We're not Jews. We don't pay attention to it. Why would we? I'm not blaming any of us. It's just we don't know what we don't know. It's happening everywhere, all the time. You go, my God, it's in my backyard. No, it's not. It's in your living room, Rutgers College. Representative Josh Gottheimer is Jewish. He's a Democrat. He came to meet with the Jewish students there at Rutgers to encourage them. Why? Rising anti-Semitism on that college campus. How'd that happen? Oh, Students for Justice in Palestine? They've got a club there. That's their Facebook page. Commissioned by the campus, given authority to have a campus chapter. It's not just the radicalized students. They've got professors. You'll have professors that you write in world history, a pro-Israel paper, you might get docked for it, unless you can really back it up with facts, because you've got professors like at Rutgers. They call for Rutgers to terminate agreement with Tel Aviv University. Tel Aviv is a prestigious school in Israel. They said, no, Rutgers is not going to have anything. They pressure them not to have anything to do with Tel Aviv. Why? Here's why. They say because you're moving Rutgers further into the orbit of an apartheid state. It is insanity, beloved. And this is the world you're stepping into. You better get ready for it. Because God's putting this on you. We can't. One generation ago, 1939, you'd hear a door, someone knocking at your door. Your Jewish friends next door, begging you to hide them. Would you ever hide Jews in your home if it meant it'd keep them alive, but if you got caught, you might go to concentration camps? One generation ago. They're not knocking on your door to hide them. They're begging us to be their friends, to learn enough to stand with them. Because what the devil is doing right now is on us. And yet, in your generation, here's what's happening. Because we don't know what we don't know, and it's not being taught. And your teacher, Mr. Barr, was kind enough to reach out to me. I called him Dr. Barr in the last class. I think he is Dr. Barr. He reached out to me and said, could you please come? Because we're teaching them a lot of good stuff, but they don't know what they're about to step into. I said, I can start, but you better have me come back a few more times because there's a lot more to discuss to get you ready. Thank God for your teachers here, because God has made a way for you, and He has appointed teachers to prepare you for what lies ahead. And we thank God for the school. We thank God for your teachers, for your substitute teachers, for the administration that come in. So be kind to them, learn all you can, because, beloved, we're handing this off to you in a minute. I'm turning 70 in a couple months. I still got plenty of fight in me. But down the road, I'll be handing you the baton to stand with Israel. Because we let our nation turn against Israel. If you read the history of nations that have turned against Israel, they slip into the boneyard of history like that. That can happen to us. So for so many reasons, we thank God for Timothy Christian School, for each of you. I think we have 0 time left. Am I right? We're done?
Yes,
Time
you
wise?
are done.
Go
Sir.
home. Have a great rest of the afternoon. God bless you all.
You are done.
Thank you.
You guys got a minute, so